Hello, I'm Enzo, and how hard is it to beat Stoneblock 4? That's right, there is a Stoneblock 4. For a while, I was planning my next mod pack to be Stoneblock 3 until I got a comment saying that there was a Stoneblock 4. So that's what I'm going to be playing today. Since I haven't played 2 or 3, I actually don't know too much about the progression in those ones, but I have to say, this screen looks extremely neat. It's also made by Feed the Beast, which is going to be important later on. But I have to say, the run is not off to a great start. Very much like what happened with 3, the game actually crashed when I tried to make the world. That's only extremely concerning. Thankfully, the world was created. Honestly, no clue why that happened. This mod pack should have plenty of memory. Oh well, probably just not optimized well. To save us all a ton of time, I'm not really going to go over the story of this whole place. I mean, it's pretty interesting, sure, but it doesn't matter that much. There are like hologram villagers, which are pretty cool, and they're gonna guide us all throughout this entire run. Very much like Ocean Block 2, there's this giant portal in the World Hub where we actually get to select our starter base, or starter area, I guess. It's hard to say. There are a ton of really neat options, which I'm almost tempted to try, but I mean, you kind of have to go with the absolute classic in a playthrough like this. And yeah, it looks exactly like the start of Stoneblock 1. That's a good sign. Naturally, I didn't look at the quests and just started mining because I kind of remember what to do. It shouldn't be that difficult. It appears that I started things a tiny bit early because there are some just like information quests to get to do. Apparently, a large part of this pack is actually events. So there are things that pop up every 10 minutes. A lot of them are actually jump scares, which you quickly get used to. One of the most common ones is this loot bee, which I have to say I really like. It reminds me a lot of Bee Swarm Simulator for some reason. And these things can drop all sorts of extremely valuable items. This isn't the best example. I mean, nether quartz is nice, so is leather early on, but there are some really good drops later on, like high capacity chests and stuff like that. Anyways, to start, it's the absolute classic, same as Stoneblock 1. I gotta get stone pebbles by mining stone by hand, use that to make cobblestone, and of course, a crafting table. Unlike Stoneblock 1, I believe you can only make the crafting table out of cobblestone. There is no wood alternative, this is the only one. Next up, I actually need to make some basic tools in the form of a stone crook and a stone hammer. Of course, I essentially need both of them to progress. No clue why I actually made the crook first when the hammer is infinitely smarter because then I can get straight cobblestone. Oh well, hindsight. With this combination, of course, I can use the hammer to start breaking down cobblestone into gravel, dirt, eventually sand and dust, all good things to have. And with the crook, I can break dirt to get saplings. This is great because saplings allow me to start growing trees and get wood. You know, pretty important starting resources. Thankfully, in this mod pack, you can also spam crouch to grow crops extremely fast. A good old twerking for trees reference, anybody? I'm very curious if anyone actually remembers the twerking for trees. And if you don't know that, it's extremely old Sunday videos that I grew up watching. Of course, the next step is to make a couple of furnaces so that I can start creating some charcoal. That's going to be important for smelting and torches. Another very neat thing about this mod pack is the vein miner of sorts. Of course, it works on everything except for stone. It makes sense, you know, they don't want you carving out massive areas easily. But it's incredibly useful when harvesting stuff like wood, and I wish I had known this way earlier, but you can use it on pretty much any tool. For example, the hammer, so you can hammer down massive quantities of cobblestone and gravel, stuff like that, super easily early on. That's one of my best tips for this playthrough. A bit later, I made myself a pair of wooden shears so that I can get some leaves. Leaves don't do much, but as you can probably expect, I can use them to make some water soon. I happened to get another one of the random events. This one you'll see all the time. This is the ceiling crumbles, and okay, looking at it now, I thought I was stupid, but no, I'm actually pretty smart. I just broke all this because I thought it was useless. What you're supposed to do is actually dust all of this off with a brush to get the artifacts or stuff inside. That's why they broke like that. It makes a lot of sense now. One thing you should probably know is that I have barely touched modern versions of Minecraft, especially after whatever trail update that was. So yeah, I've never done any of the archaeology. I didn't know how it all worked until this playthrough. It's actually a big part of this mod pack, which I think is very fascinating. One of the coolest features for sure. But yeah, that's what happened there. I need to have a brush, but I don't have one yet. I'm gonna get that relatively soon. To get water, it's actually very unique. I have this special barrel or crucible type thingy, and I kind of just walk all over the leaves on top of it. The leaves do have a random chance to break, but most of the time they will just give me water, which is very nice. And yeah, there's your water source. Thankfully, water is infinite, so you just need to make this, and yeah, there's your water for the rest of the run. But here's the next major step in progression. Making a campfire. Very much like Sky Factory 5, campfires are pretty important for making some materials. In this case, using leaves and drying them essentially to create your first very basic brush. Yes, obviously I'm not gonna get the super fancy copper feather brush until later on. I don't have copper, and I most certainly do not have feathers just yet. Using a cook on dried leaves actually gives me straw. And yes, this is the brush material. Like I said, it is a very fascinating system, I have to say. Of course, to make my first brush, I require a stick, stone pebbles, and of course our newfound straw. After a trip back to spawn to talk with the main villager, I can finally use this brush to start uncovering resources from these blocks. Another thing I mentioned earlier, of course, you can use the vein miner to dust everything off at once. It saves a ridiculous amount of time. But this is easily one of the coolest parts of the run because this is how you're going to get all of your resources, at least for a decent while. This mod pack, well, it gets crazy. There's infinite ways to get resources. You'll see soon enough. I managed to get some iron from sifting or brushing gravel, I guess. Really weird because I'm so used to having to sift through everything. Okay. I also got a single ingot from another loot bee. I got clay and copper from sand, which are both very important. Eventually some other stuff from dust. You see, the problem is you can, well, it's on my screen right there. Unearther level 1. I get only a couple of drops from brushing everything, or unearthing, I guess. That makes a bit more sense. So yeah, I'm not going to get the crazy good rare stuff just yet. That's going to be a very long time. And something a little bit different, one of my other favorite parts of this pack. But of course, we'll get there in a while. Using the clay I just got, I smelted it into bricks and made a bonsai pot. I naturally shift clicked so I could put it into my hotbar when I realized instead, it puts it on my head. Alright, I have to admit, that's pretty funny. I don't think you can have a tree growing in it when it's on your head. I mean, unless you can. I didn't actually try that out. It'd be pretty fun if you could. Anyways, this is very nice to have. It's a bit different than other bonsai pots because you need an axe, as well as, you know, dirt, sapling, all the classic stuff. That kind of sucks early on, especially because iron is a little bit limited for now. I can still make tons of it, but it's easy enough if you just want to make a diamond axe or something like that later on. You don't need a whole lot of wood in this pack, as I quickly discovered. And there are better ways to get wood later on, like infinitely better than this. Besides this absolutely insane drop I got from one of the missions, yeah, that's a quantum core. I don't actually know how to craft those things. All I know is that they're extremely insane and expensive late game things. So yeah, that is quite a find, I have to say. More important for now though, I've discovered that I can actually craft a new type of hammer. Instead of the default hammer for crushing things up, this is from a mod I've never seen before, and slightly different recipe, but it lets me break things in a 3x3 pattern, which is awesome. This is going to save me so much time mining, especially because this mod pack is completely full of it. You'll see why throughout the run, but for now, you can tell by the minimap. There happens to be something up there north on the minimap. What is that? Well, I actually need to head there for my next mission to get some extra stuff. What I happened to discover is an underground springs, and this place is absolutely beautiful. I can tell they put a ton of work into, well, all of the detail of this pack. That's pretty obvious from the lobby and everything like that, but yeah, this place is incredible, I have to say. On top of that, it's filled with all sorts of useful resources, which is actually the main reason I'm here. It's called the Healing Spring for a reason. You'll see why later on. It's pretty important. Only in the early game though. It becomes useless after a few missions. Anyways, the main thing I need from this place right now is actually the amethyst. However, it also happens to contain some super useful things like, well, the blast furnace, the stone cutter, the grindstones. So yeah, I really like this so far. I need these amethyst shards to make some very important stuff. It's some technology that's going to be useful. It's some mission quests. But before I make those, I actually decided to make something I will need later on, but I can craft right now. The Unearther. This is a super cool block, easily one of my favorite things in the pack. Unfortunately, I won't be able to use it for quite a while. I have a lot of missions to get through before, well, I can activate them really. From another loot bee, which they happen all the time by the way, I happened to get some chance cubes. Naturally, you know I have to open these things. The first one gives me a ridiculous amount of carpet. It's actually not useless. I had like a couple things to do with it a bit later on. I mean, it's certainly not like the worst thing you can get from a chance cube. But the second one was fascinating. It built a massive house around me. A little bit annoying because it's right in the way of my tunnel, but here's the craziest part. It spawned a ton of villagers inside. This is quite ridiculous, I have to say. Oh, and the whole part about this place, and do you want to play a game? It gives me like raid omen, making it look like there's gonna be a raid on this place, but there never is. Anyways, that's not what's important here. The villagers, especially right now, is like insane. Like, I cannot stress how crazy this was of a spawn. This also has a lot to do with the Unearther box I literally just made, so yeah, perfect timing. I'll get to that very soon though, because that's what I'm working on. The whole reason I needed this amethyst in reality is to make this special item, to make, well, another special item. I'm not exactly sure what these are for, especially later on. All I know is that they're important to the story, and I have to make them. I've skipped a ton of stuff because it's all kind of useless. I got some other items from completing that mission, but more importantly, look at what's in my inventory. A stick. So at some point I got a stick. This is one of the random events, and it's pretty awesome. There's all sorts of like crazy effects you can get on these. Funnily enough, there's actually a specific slot in your baubles or whatever that equipment slot is. And yeah, stick. It's pretty funny. This one actually happens to have 11% lifesteal, which is insane if you really think about it, because that's essentially one heart most of the time I'm hitting enemies. So yeah, I will gladly take that. One of the few uses I had for that carpet that I got earlier on is actually for my dark room to spawn mobs in. I can place this on the ground so that I don't have to deal with torches. And in some of my Minecraft videos, I kind of talk about how I'm not a huge fan of newer versions of Minecraft, which is still true, by the way. I'll get to that later. However, I can say one of the few changes I actually like is the torch change, so that you don't have to place 1,000 torches everywhere. Mobs can only spawn where there's absolute zero darkness, which I really like. But at the same time, that creates, you know, an issue like this, where I have to use carpet because I can't place torches anywhere close to my dark room. Besides getting loot from mobs in general, I actually need one specific thing from said dark room. It's actually quite bizarre. A zombie villager. This is why getting those villagers is insane, because this is like the next main part of the story, and why I had to make those 3x3x3 multi-blocks earlier. It also ties in quite a bit with the healing spring that I got earlier. Essentially, you just have to get a zombie villager and take him to the healing spring. These guys spawn more often in this pack because, well, it's one of the mechanics, so obviously. But yeah, with that, we get a villager. That's pretty awesome. One of the things I crafted earlier allows me to teleport to a new area, which I have to say, this place is insanely cool and pretty crucial to the entire game. This is the world engine. Now, I was scared for a bit because I didn't know what happened if you fell anywhere. Apparently, I learned this way later on, like way too late. You have the ability to fly in creative mode, both in here and the spawn, which is very nice. Anyways, with some amethyst and other materials, I can actually make a special item very similar to the Ender Lead that I got for free, but it has limited charges, which really sucks. And essentially, it's a unique tool that allows me to capture, well, pick up villagers and turn them into items. It's really stupid, but hilarious at the same time. One of the items that I was missing is an iron stick. Apparently, another mod that has to deal with sticks. It actually adds crafting wands, and they're pretty much the same recipe as usual. It has all the same rarities, everything like that. That's going to be very helpful as well. For now, I didn't actually understand how the door teleporting mechanic worked, but there is a hotkey, in this case B, that you can press, and it opens up like a menu of all the places you can warp to, which is very nice. And just like that, I've managed to capture a villager. This is so stupidly funny, I have to admit. Naturally, I also decided to capture all the other villagers too. Well, I kept a couple in case I had to make more villagers, but you can also do that in the world engine, which is very nice. Speaking of, to actually recharge the villager wand, you just throw it in the world engine as well. Besides yet another unearther level, I got this awesome pair of blaze gold boots. Unfortunately, they're just extremely strong gold boots, so they're not the best, but I'll absolutely take protection 5. That's pretty crazy. There's also a whole thing about like world difficulty and some loot thing. I honestly don't know what mod this is for. I'll get to talking about that stuff later on. There's a lot to explain. It took me a lot of hassle to get a villager to actually do the right thing. They kept running towards my crafting area because I have all of my crafting stations there. The villagers are getting extremely annoying, I have to say, just because of how stupid they're actually coded. I'm trying to get this guy to interact with this special table so that I can turn him into a new type of villager that can actually work inside the unearther. Which, yeah, that's what they're for. They're literally like villager prisons. I would generally say that using slave labor is a bad thing, but honestly, the villagers deserve it. Alright, I know viewers don't like hearing this, and I hate to keep saying stuff like this. Very similar to Forever Stranding, I will admit, well, you'll see by the end, but my enjoyment of this pack kind of trailed off quickly. Don't worry, there's still plenty of video to go, I just want to say that now. Stoneblock 4 is just full of issues, and there are several reasons why I wasn't a huge fan. I will admit, I've never had the time to play 2 or 3, but I'm guessing they're both very similar to 1. Stoneblock 4 takes a completely different direction than all of the others. Again, I don't know what 2 and 3 are, but I'm willing to bet they're still, focused on building a factory and automating everything. One of the major problems with Stoneblock 4 is that it's actually adventure-based and focused. But I'll get to that later. One of the first problems that I quickly noticed with this pack is that there's just too much stuff in it. There's like over 410 mods in this pack, which is insanity if you guys didn't know. The closest thing I can relate to is GregTech New Horizons, which has like 310 or something like that, and that's freaking GregTech. And the main issue with too many mods, and you can kind of see it here when I'm scrolling through all the missions, there's just way too many ways to do everything. That's the problem. You have like Ender.io, Mechanism, Just Dire things. I could keep going. There's like a billion mods for every single thing, and it makes no sense. I'm okay if you have like 1 or 2 mods for everything, but you don't need like 7 different magic mods. There's, I don't even know how many. Of course, I am exaggerating here for sure, but I swear there's like 10 plus gear mods, equipment, adventure, magic, all that stuff. There's just way too much stuff in this pack. That is the #1 issue with it. And of course, that makes doing anything super complicated because there's too many ways to do it. Thus, I try to find a way, and yeah, on top of that, you guys might have heard before, I'm not a big fan of like magic mods. I never have been. I'm not super interested in magic. I'll admit there are a lot of cool things, but it's just hard for me to get into it. I've explained why a lot before. I'll get to some of it later on, of course. But yeah, I was really hoping for a pure automation factory pack like the first Stoneblock. This is not it. I do not like this pack. I don't recommend it, unless of course you like adventuring and exploring and gear leveling, stuff like that. Then you'll enjoy this pack. Maybe. You'll see. I've spent a super long time, like several hours, just getting all sorts of resources and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I haven't had any animals spawn, well, except for sheep, but they're useless. I want chickens, so I can start the whole, the whole chicken roost mod, because that's one of the big focuses of Stoneblock throughout like all the packs. So instead, I decided to give in for once and decide to start magic. Yes, you're hearing that right. I have just said I'm going to start magic. Since you're probably wondering, yes, I have essentially lost my mind at this point. I have run out of anything else to do. So I'll get into one of my least favorite mods. Well, I don't like any of the magic mods really. Botania, however you want to pronounce it, that is my least favorite mod, and I'm glad it's not in here because I hate that mod. I don't know why, I just do. Instead, the first magic mod I'm going to be focusing on is Ars Noval, ARS Noval, something like that. It's actually super neat. I will admit, like later on once I got into it, well, I didn't get far into it, but it does look really cool, all the stuff you can do with it. If you're wondering why I'm going around the spawn area, that's because I need to meet some of the other holograms so that I can start other mission lines. There's Mechanism, Magic, and unfortunately Create. I hate Create. I really don't want to have to do any of that mod, and I'm going to skip as much as possible. I'm just not a fan of it. I really don't feel like learning all of it just so I can use it a tiny bit. I will admit, I may have gotten a tiny bit sidetracked. I got a ton of diamonds because my villager finally leveled up quite a bit, and as you can see, I've upgraded my gear like crazy. I made a new weapon, as there's like a trillion weapon choices in this pack. I made a new diamond hammer so I can mine even faster, and using the map, I was able to actually find a new structure. The compass is the wrong way, but I saw this, I wanted to figure out what it was. It's one of these trials. I will also admit, I've never done any of these before, so I have no clue what's in store for me, especially considering it's modded, but I think only the drops I get from the pots and everything are modded. That's what's different. But apparently these places aren't too crazy, especially since I have insanely good gear, and I think I'm playing on easy or normal mode. One of the cool spells I found helped out a ton. Anyways, these places aren't extremely special, they're just like randomly generated dungeons filled with loot. The trial spawners spawn a bunch of enemies. I actually first discovered these things in Ocean Block 2. Like I said earlier, I haven't played much modern Minecraft recently. And yeah, you kill everything that spawns, you get a reward. Sometimes you get a key, which gives you slightly better loot from a vault, but I never managed to get the mace core or whatever. I think that's gotta be like a rare special key, but yeah, pretty neat to discover for the first time though. After that, I got a bit back to the magic mission. I technically don't have to find this place because I can get the saplings with one of the villagers, but oh well, exploring is very fun, for now at least. This is the Arcane Grove. It's this massive cave. It has all sorts of buildings and chests, of course, enemy spawners and stuff like that. But here's the single coolest part. I don't actually know what mod does this, it's definitely one of the exploration ones, but it essentially adds locks to some of the chests. As you can see, I've only gotten green ones so far, but there are higher yellow and red difficulties. Pretty much, the higher the color of the lock, the better loot you can get, assuming you don't fail the little challenge inside of it. So the challenge on all these things varies. For example, this one is easy, so there are only a couple of pins, and mood swing. The direction changes every single time I get a pin. And yeah, you just have to click at the right time to activate all the pins, and you get good loot if you complete it successfully. It's a really cool mod, probably one of my favorites in this pack. And the mood swing one completely reminds me of Atomic Heart, because that's like the lockpicking system in there. So yeah, I know how to do this, it's really easy, and I really like it. Of course, it does depend a bit on the specific modifier, because I didn't exactly know how all these worked at the beginning, but once you learn all the modifiers, they're stupidly easy, I have to say. Now, I won't show too many more of these because they're all pretty much the same. The harder ones have 2 and 3 modifiers respectively, but you get the point. I really like it. Even after all that exploring, I still have had 0 luck with getting any animals to spawn. Thankfully, I was looking at all the hologram or echo villager shops, and one just happened to have a super neat thing. That is the gateway pearls that I first discovered in Sky Factory 5. Essentially, you gotta clear a few waves of enemies and then you get a big reward. In this case, it's all sorts of organic materials and then a bunch of animals of all kinds. It's very nice. On top of that, you can see I made myself a scythe as my main weapon. This thing is awesome. I mean, scythes are like one of the coolest weapons in general. And I figured out how to do some of the magic stuff. I'll be honest, it's not super interesting, and I never got very far into it. But yeah, basic spell book, basic projectile spell, but it is technically an infinite ranged option. What's also crazy is that all of this early stuff for ARS is actually stupid cheap. It's just a ton of their magic wood and gold. That's essentially it. You also need lapis to make the source gems, but that's cheap enough. One of the other super cool things you can find in the Echo Shop is the player upgrade and all of the buffs you can get using the player upgrade. In this case, I went for mining speed, which is pretty important considering you're gonna have to do a lot of tunneling to explore in this pack. And later on, once I do more missions, you actually unlock more things in the shop, including some stupidly powerful player upgrades, like lifesteal eventually. So yeah, very cool stuff. It's been another major skip in time, and I happened to get the ceiling crumbling event yet again, but this time I finally remembered to actually use a brush on these things. This specific event can give you all sorts of just random ores and materials, stuff like that. Nothing extremely special, I think at least, but yeah, that's just one of the random events. And since you're probably curious, the reinforced brush that I'm using is actually a better version of the vanilla brush. It requires a diamond and a special smithing template. Alright, stay with me here for a minute, which also requires some special stuff that I get by breaking down gear that I found. Yeah, it's a little complicated, but it's way more powerful. A bit later, one of the things I discovered are clapples. Yes, clay apples. You craft them exactly the way you think. This is for the liquid cows mod, or whatever it's called, and yeah, it's as awesome as it sounds. I can get cows that, instead of producing milk, produce random liquids like molten copper or crazy stuff like that. You can even breed them to get alloy fluids, which is pretty awesome. Unfortunately, I never really went anywhere with this, but it is a pretty awesome mod, I have to say. Near the end, when I was exploring, I actually found like a jar that had a uranium cow inside of it. So yeah, if you guys remember like the milk jar from whatever mod that is that produces milk when you, I kid you not, drop an anvil on top of a cow into a jar. And yeah, it does the same thing but with whatever fluid cow you capture. I think this is a pretty cool mod and I wish there was a better use for it, but you'll see soon enough, resource chickens still just take over. The whole reason I've been trying to get animals to spawn is so that I can get chickens. I need chickens so I can get work started on the roost mod. This is pretty important because it's like the best way to get resources, apparently in all of the stone blocks. My garden close strategy is pretty stupid, and I mean, I knew that. So yeah, that's why I want to actually try the right way this time, which of course is chickens, or resource chickens, I guess. Unfortunately, early on, I didn't get too much into this mod. I just made a couple basic chickens. I'll get way more into it near the end of the video. Since I don't have that many high-end resources just yet, I'm not able to make a couple of the things and like all the seeds, the higher tier ones especially, that I'm going to need for a lot of the chickens, but I can explain a tiny bit of how it works for now. You start out with your chicken wand. It's this pretty funny thing that you make out of a stick, a feather, and an egg. So pretty simple. This is how you can actually pick up and transport the chickens super easily. So that's how you get your very basic starter chickens. Of course, these ones are like vanilla ones. They'll only lay standard eggs, but you know, you need those for some crafting recipes. Then of course, there are the seeds. this is one of the most important parts because every single tier of chicken needs the tier of seed or higher. Pretty nice. I was initially concerned about the seeds because I thought they would be limited and extremely expensive to craft, but thankfully you can grow them stupidly easy. Just like the trees, you can grow them all just by spamming crouch, and yeah, you can grow tons of these super fast, which is very nice. For now, there are only 3 of the 4 buildings I need that I can actually make. You've got the basic roost. This is where you put your chicken and their seeds and you get their output. That's pretty simple. Then there's the breeder, which allows you to, well, combine multiple types of chickens to get new ones. Also relatively simple. But of course you need the corresponding tier of seed or higher, as usual. And then the cage looking building called the soul extractor. This is pretty awesome. It literally, well, kills the chicken and gives you their soul, which is usually used in other crafting recipes for higher tier seeds and stuff like that. It's actually possible to breed like higher tier chickens with a lower tier seed. Then you get their soul, which allows you to make, well, the higher tier seed. Makes a little bit of sense. These can also be used as food if you really want to use it, which is slightly nice because you can actually eat these without having any hunger, so you can fill up your golden hunger bar. I can never remember what that thing is called. For the longest time, I thought that was absorption, but no, absorption is your golden hearts. But for now, I am working on making an insanely important chicken. It's gonna carry me for quite a while, and that is actually the lava chicken. I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't even watched the Minecraft movie, I just know that is a reference to it. But yeah, you need lava buckets to get the lava chicken. That kind of makes sense. And these things are pretty awesome. Their output is actually lava eggs, which is great because they function as lava buckets themselves. And as you'll see later on, they are extremely helpful. They are like one of the best starter fuels for this pack, both for furnaces and of course generators, which is awesome. And of course, for a lot of the chickens, I decided to make 2 copies so that I can obviously breed more of them. There are specific chickens like the lava and water ones that you can only craft, and then a lot of the ones later on can only be bred, and some of the final ones are crafting only. You get the point. For now, the reason I'm making a bunch of these lava chickens, well, I don't really know. I didn't use them at all or anything like that. But for now, the smart play would be making more chickens, because one of the big parts of this is actually leveling them up so you get more resources. Unfortunately, I can't level them up yet because I don't have the stuff to make the building for that, which is what I'm going to be getting a little bit later on. Again, you'll see this more later, but this is definitely one of my favorite mods. You can get so many resources so easily, it's just ridiculous. Wait until near the end of the video, things are gonna get awesome. To get the next thing I want, I was actually exploring for quite a while, gathering a bunch of materials, as you can see in my backpack, when I happened to get yet another stick. I got a ton of threes throughout the run, a lot of them were garbage, honestly, but 50% experience is insane. I really should have used it. I actually forgot about it near the middle part when it would have been insanely useful. Oh well. Anyways, I happened to stumble upon this massive dungeon. I have no clue what mod this is from, but it's this just insane, I guess, tunnel system. It's just filled with chests and enemies and spawners. It's pretty horrible. I don't know why I kept running like further into it because I was dying so quickly, but yeah, that was a bad idea considering the insanely difficult enemies that spawn here. Witches, which are like mostly just annoying because of poison, vindicators, creepers, it's pretty horrible. So yeah, that was one of my few deaths, and I decided I was having none of that. I didn't want to waste all that time like dying and having to run back, so I teleported back and decided to play in peaceful for a bit. Honestly, I didn't even get that much good stuff. I was kind of just here to see what was around. And of course, do all the lock-picking puzzles because those are extremely fun. But of course, I still need to make one more thing before I can truly complete my plan, and that is of course the Productive Metalworks Foundry. I'm still gonna call it a smeltery, obviously, that's what it is. Of course, I just need some specialized blocks. I really like this mod, I have to admit. The smeltery system is pretty awesome, and the coils at the bottom look really cool. Of course, all the smeltery components are cheap enough, it's just clay and sand, which I have plenty of, that's stupidly easy. and then a ton of iron and copper to make all of the coils at the bottom. But of course, at this point, I have plenty of everything I need, so that's no big deal. Unlike the traditional smeltery design, I decided to add corners to this one. If you guys have seen my Ocean Block 2 run, which you should absolutely watch, that's one of my favorite mod packs, I quickly learned that this smeltery has a super bizarre hitbox, and if you stand like next to it in one of the corners, you'll actually take damage. And any other mobs that stand there will too, so do with that what you will. If you guys remember the lava chickens from earlier, this is one of the places they come in handy. I don't have to put the lava into buckets, you can just use the egg like a stackable bucket, which is super nice. That's why I love them so much. But this is what I needed the foundry for. I was looting a ton of copper lamps. Now, why did I go for copper lamps? Long story, I want blaze rods. There are plenty of other ways to get blaze rods, but this is the easiest way I could figure out so far. I've never crafted a copper bulb, so I didn't know, but apparently they do take blaze rods, which really sucks. But it also lets me do this, so it's hard to complain. Unfortunately, I can't make the blaze rods just yet. There's still one more thing I have to complete first. And that's actually one of my favorite all-time mods, Mechanism. I have to build a couple of Mechanism machines. Well, thankfully just the generator and everybody's favorite metallurgic infuser. Essentially, I need to make steel. Steel is stupidly easy, at least in this pack. All you have to do is throw some coal in for your carbon, and of course some iron in and process it twice. It's gonna take quite a while, but that gives me steel, and that's all that matters in the end. I need this steel because I need to make molds to actually cast my blaze into blaze rods. So yes, this process is way more complicated than it had to be. In the end though, I get a smeltery, which will come in handy later on, and of course the blaze rods that I need. Now we finally get to the point of, why do I need blaze rods? Well, the blaze rods are required to make the final building in the Roost mod. That is, of course, the chicken trainer. I always just call it the gym because that's what it is. It's literally got a weight bar and the bar goes up and down animation. It's super funny. But yeah, this is how you level up your chickens with seeds. Each seed has a specific amount of XP. Obviously, it goes up the higher tier, and higher tier chickens need more XP. Which is really annoying for the highest tier, but it's absolutely worth it because each level gives them a tiny bit more production. You can get a ridiculous amount of resources stupidly fast. I love this mod so much. Of course, I never got super far into any of the magic things, but this stuff is important because there are a couple of recipes with the world engine where I'm going to need source. Now, there are a bunch of different ways to get source, but you guys remember that like fast grow, spam shift to grow things quickly? Yeah, that completely breaks this, by the way. So I could use like lava, that's one of my best options, or agriculture to make source. Essentially, when plants grow, it'll give me a tiny bit of source to these kind of pillars, and the pillars will transfer those to the tanks. You'll see it a bit later on, but it's going to be pretty awesome. I create so much source, it's not even funny, especially for how easy it is with this perfect combination of mods. I was also doing some more work with chickens, as I was actually creating colored chickens. You see, to breed the higher tiers and different resources of chickens, I actually need base colors. It makes quite a bit of sense. Honestly, if you've ever played with this mod before, you don't actually have to make like 2 of every single color, especially with how horrible my luck is with yellow. I couldn't get 2 yellow chickens for some stupid reason. You only really need 1 because 1 can, well, breed infinitely to just get you whatever color or resource you really need. I was trying to get 2 so that I could breed them together to get a ton of the same color, but that's not necessary. And even further fun fact, I should have figured at this point, is you can actually just roost these chickens to get them to, well, create dyes. So yeah, I wish I'd played with this mod before because I could have fixed so much way easier than I did. Here's another one of the sticks I found. 1 flatulence. You know, I never tried this thing out, but I'm willing to bet good money it's exactly what it sounds like. The character probably farts every so often. So that's apparently a thing in this pack. A while later, I finally managed to actually set up the chicken gyms. or trainers, and this is exactly what they look like. Thankfully, you can toggle the interface back to vanilla Minecraft, that's the V symbol there, because it can be very hard to tell with that custom background sometimes. But yeah, now I can level up my chickens and they can produce more. I only have a few basic chickens for now, just like dust, sand, gravel, and cobblestone. Obviously, those are all incredibly useful because I can put those resources in the unearther to get all sorts of good stuff. At some point, I definitely will have to learn magic mods, especially this one. I think there are an insane amount of cool uses for it. There's like crazy combinations with all the spell things you can make, but like I said already, I haven't gotten much into it. The coolest thing I managed to do with ARS so far is actually make a glyph. It's literally just 4 leather, that's stupidly cheap, and it lets me summon a horse. It has a cooldown and mana cost, of course, but like, summon horse. That is insanely useful, especially for a playthrough like this where I'm going to be doing a ton of traveling, especially right now, at least until I get like teleporters and stuff like that. I finally decided to make my way to the Arcane Grove, where I encountered this guy, the Arc Invoker. This is an incredibly tough enemy. I'm counting it as a boss because of the pure difficulty, and he decided to do this funny thing, and I immediately hate him. First of all, he heals. I hate enemies that heal. They are literally the worst to deal with. Then he summoned just a barrier I couldn't even break. I'm guessing since it's from a magic mod, I need some sort of magic to counter it, but let's just say I had absolutely zero interest in that stupid shield. Back to mods that I actually enjoy playing, Mechanism. Just like Ocean Block, and well, if you've ever seen Mechanism before, I'm doing all of the classic recipes I need. In this case, I need to start making some more advanced circuits and alloys, stuff like that. It's pretty simple. It requires osmium, redstone, well, that's about it. Copper for these alloys, you get the point. That's also where the smeltery comes in super handy, because I can smelt down all of my ores to get double the output, which is very nice. I made another metallurgic infuser and an enrichment chamber. I feel like the enrichment chamber is what you should make second, or as soon as physically possible, because you can get way more value out of like redstone, carbon, diamond, and obsidian. Those are the chemicals you need to actually improve all of your alloys. Unfortunately, I don't have any better power options for now, so it's just going to be build more generators. It's a shame the generators can't be upgraded with like speed or efficiency, because I think that would make them so much better, but at the same time that would be a little bit overpowered. So yeah, this is what I've been working on for the last while. I decided to do some more exploring to see what I could get. I didn't really show me using that purple dagger. It's a super powerful weapon, but I happened to find this weapon instead. That is one thing I will admit, some of these mods have insanely cool gear. For example, I don't remember where I found this weapon, it was just in some chests or something, but the unique effect is I get 2 right clicks. The first one launches me back, which is really good when dealing with creepers and stuff like that, and then right clicking again will actually launch me forward, so I can do like a quick strike. It's a really neat effect, and can be very nice in combat. But this thing I found from a super difficult chest is called the Tempest. Yeah, this is going to be my weapon for most of the run. It was insanely powerful to say the least, especially with some effects I got from other like rings and gear like that. Yeah, it went pretty crazy, I have to say. The whole effect is all about damage over time, or dot effects, essentially like poison or wither. So when you hit an enemy with it, it gives them effects like that, and it can shred anything super fast. Oh, and did I mention that effect stacks? Yeah, it's as powerful as it sounds. Just wait until you guys see it in action. So, yeah, I absolutely love this weapon. It is extremely powerful, and with a lot of basic enemies, you only have to hit them once and they will just die. It's quite ridiculous, I have to say. For one of the next things I'm working on, I was making my way through and digging a massive tunnel. As you can see by the new backpack here, this is where I'm storing everything that I mine up. I happened to look at the map for a second and realized the way I've been exploring makes a slightly unfortunate shape, I have to say. But at the same time, that's kind of hilarious. The thing I was looking for is the Create Vault. This is one of my least favorite things, I have to say. Well, the vaults, puzzles, exploration, all of that stuff in general. I seriously just play Stoneblock because I want to play a nice factory automation mod pack. But no, that's not what you get here. All of this is exploration and garbage I seriously do not like doing. I only cheated a tiny way through this vault, but that's because some of these parts are really dumb, I have to say. And as I've already said, I don't like create. I don't want to learn it. Stop putting it in every single new mod pack. I'm getting sick of seeing create. Alright, I don't know how far I'm actually into the video at this point. I kind of forgot to explain how Stoneblock's exploration really works. The world is actually generated in rings. It's super cool when you look at the example image they have in the quest line, but essentially there are 7 tiers, I believe. I don't remember each exact one, but just bear with me, alright? You start out in a massive stone ring. That makes a lot of sense. Then, as you can see right here, I'm actually in the deep slate ring, which is the worst to mine through, trust me, but I am slowly approaching the nether ring, which, as you can probably guess, is the easiest because you chew through netherrack insanely fast. After that is the end, and then a bunch of other ones I can't remember. There's like the ocean, Twilight Forest, another one, the void. It's not an actual void, trust me. It's like nothing really, I guess. It's just more stone after that. You get the point. The world is made up of rings, alright? Each individual area has different structures that spawn inside of it. As you can see here, I'm approaching a giant nether dungeon, much like the stone one that I found all that good stuff in earlier. And yeah, this nether dungeon has all sorts of stuff. I mean, I shouldn't have to explain what it relates to, but yeah, I'm gonna find a ton of good and useful stuff here that'll let me make a lot of progression. Naturally though, it's filled with super difficult and annoying enemies, so I'm just gonna skip most of the stuff here. For a while now, I've been working on all sorts of crazy stuff, and this is still before I realized you can just use creative flight here. But one of the most important things about this mod pack is actually upgrading your world engine. I mean, that makes complete sense. You need all sorts of different resources from different mods. You can kind of see those 2 purple blocks already. Those are source blocks that I made a while earlier, and you can just click specific spots in the missions to have it auto-assemble for you, because I don't think anyone knows how to like upgrade this on their own, let's be honest. But for some of the recipes that I'm going to want to make, I actually need to power that. I'm gonna need to power this thing, which kind of sucks, but it's simple enough to set up some power. I built an energy cube, one of the high tier ones, so that I can actually store a ton of power before I need it. To make one of the next major steps in progression, I needed a bunch of machine parts that I've been working on in the background. They're all relatively simple. The Electrum wire is super interesting. Since I don't want to get into create and I don't have any machines to make it, the only real option is actually casting it into plates and cutting it with this stone cutter, which I thought was actually super cool. The main other way is using immersive engineering, but I didn't get into any of that. Despite me having some parts here, these are to craft the blocks I'm making. The little cinematic for upgrading the machine is also extremely cool, I have to say. The world engine is absolutely the most fascinating part about this mod pack. I just wish that 90% of it wasn't just garbage exploration, magic, and gear, stuff like that. If it were entirely focused on automation and factory work, it would be absolutely perfect. Well, minus create and a lot of the magic stuff, then it would be perfect, to me at least. There was also this pretty neat part, well, neat at first at least. The whole place is a Portal reference, and yes, use a portal gun for everything. But long story short, I really hated puzzle sections in this map. I don't think it fits Stoneblock at all. I've already said that, I know, but this section was extremely annoying to get through, especially the final part here. I got through most of it, I just couldn't figure out how to do the red core at the very end. Like, I looked through all of this redstone circuitry, I'd have no clue what any of this stuff does, I'll be completely honest. But yeah, I couldn't complete it normally. Go figure. I spent several hours on this, and I absolutely regret that. I should just skip this whole thing from the start. Anyways, I needed the reward from that to make one of the world upgrades or something. It didn't really matter in the end, I think. What's really important is the fact I'm actually working on Ori Tech right now. Ori Tech has all sorts of awesome machines, and if you watch my Ocean Block 2 playthrough, which you absolutely should, it's easily one of my favorite mods ever. There's just so many cool things you can do with it. And of course, I'm going to need the machines for several reasons, and power generation later on. For now though, I start out with an assembler, because this makes crafting everything way cheaper than before. Like, the crafting recipe for the motor is ridiculous because I need to make wires, which again, I still have to do that plate casting and then sawmill process, which is a bit ridiculous. But the whole reason I'm making all these machines is going to be making plastic, which I need for other stuff. Oh boy. Anyways, it took a while, but I was able to make the centrifuge and a fluid add-on. I'm making the bioplastic method instead of the oil one because I don't really have oil and that's way more annoying to do, but essentially all I have to do is get some wheat. We all know how easy it is to grow stuff in this pack. Combine 4 wheats, make the compressed wheat cheese looking thing, and yeah, I gotta run that through the centrifuge a couple of times with water and I get plastic. It's super simple. The funny thing is, near the end I kind of forgot what I was actually doing with this plastic and why it was so important, but then I realized, oh yeah, I need it to make these things, advanced electronic components, which also requires immersive engineering stuff. I made that a while earlier, so yeah, this is what I've been working on. I remember now. I want these so that I can actually make the Dimensionalist villager. You guys remember the Unearther? Well, there are a couple more blocks that I can process. I just don't have the 3rd villager that I actually need. Besides the silk touch that I happened to get when I first enchanted this hammer, I eventually found this book that I added to it called Boon of the Earth, and I have to say, it's pretty awesome. Basically, it adds a chance to get any other ore when I mine, well, stone and stuff like that. In this case, you can see I'm getting all the deep slate results. Eventually, I happen to get stuff like nether quartz and the nether tiny gold ore when I was mining netherrack. So yeah, pretty awesome enchantment. I'm really glad I found it, but it does fill up your inventory quite quickly. I've skipped a whole bunch of exploration, because I'll be honest, it didn't really matter in the end. It's just a bunch of useless loot, essentially. I will note right here though, I found this structure. It was incredibly annoying because it was right where I was trying to dig my tunnel. It's perfectly in the line actually. I will note though, I guess you can kind of read it up there. I wish I'd remembered that. That's actually the end boss arena. And I was breaking through. Apparently it does respawn. That's incredibly annoying. So yeah, that is gonna be important for the end. Just wanted to note that now. Earlier, one of the reasons I upgraded my world engine, well, besides doing the main missions, was so that I could actually upgrade these chicken seeds, which I did a while back actually, and now I'm finally adding a farmer to automate production of them, which is very convenient. It also allows me to get a couple of new chickens, most notably the iron one, and redstone later on. Other cool thing to note here is the other rock that I've been making. With the Dimensionalist in the Unearther, I can get all sorts of new materials, which is very nice. Even further, I've been working on making a lot of this cognitive flux. Man, that's a complicated word. And this is going to be super important for one of the next small things I wanted to work on. Long story short, I need to get into this mod called Cognition. I've never actually seen it before, but it is very cool, I have to say. It's all about storing and working with XP. It allows me to make a XP holder, a lot like the Ender IO one, or other mods that have XP stands like this. Its own special machine to make some new components and other stuff I'll need, especially to upgrade the chicken seeds. But the coolest thing I have to say is actually the upgraded grindstone. It allows you to take a specific enchantment off of something, which is insanely useful because I've been looting so many enchanted books from structures, and they have all these worthless enchants that I don't want. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff here. It does also require XP to craft some of the stuff, stuff in this new machine, including one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Okay, it's a complicated word, bibliophage. You know, kind of like biblio is like book and biophage, like the virus type thing. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like, by the way. It's a virus that consumes bookshelves and gives you XP. It's pretty awesome. I also made this temporal pouch a bit earlier. I've had this in mind for a while. Since I played Ocean Block 2, I learned about it at the end in that run, and yeah, it's super helpful to make as soon as possible. But yeah, as you can see, I've infected these bookshelves and they're slowly losing XP. Considering how cheap these are to make, well, yeah, it's absolutely worth it. Especially once I get replicas started later on, that could be pretty overpowered. The other main reason I am infecting, kind of like killing and melting down these bookshelves, is because I need a specific thing they drop so that I can make another thing to make a final thing. You get the point. For a while now, I've been working on making even more chickens, and I've actually gotten up to tier 7 at this point. Unfortunately, I can't get tier 8 or the tier 8 seeds because those are going to be very expensive. Thankfully, the tier 7 seeds are super simple. I just need a bunch of tier 7 souls, which are easy enough to breed, some tier 6 seeds, netherite scraps, and a diamond thrown in the atomic reconstructor, which is pretty easy. With that, I now have an infinite amount of tier 7 seeds, which is awesome because that's gonna make leveling up my chickens and all that stuff super easy. Unfortunately, I don't have the stuff to make tier 8. The Draconium infused obsidian isn't actually as difficult as it looks. It's quite simple actually. It's the empowered emerald that I'm going to need. That thing is going to suck to produce. Even though I can make almost every chicken just by breeding other tiers and types, there's actually one I can't produce. I have to craft it, and that is the Certus Quartz chicken. What's interesting is that I have to throw amethyst blocks into the world engine to get the flawless budding crystals and some sand. So it's not that difficult, I just found the crafting recipe super interesting. And here's the main reason you really should level up your chickens. This is a max level iron chicken with just 16 seeds, by the way. And seed tier doesn't matter as long as it's the same or higher tier of chicken. And yeah, I just got over 1,000 iron from that. It's quite ridiculous, I have to say. And it's gonna get even crazier later on. Just wait and see, it's gonna be awesome. But yeah, I love this mod. After some more exploring, I found another dungeon. Well, I've been in a few places before, but this is certainly one of the coolest. But I'm running into more problems with this pack. You see, one of the big ones is that it just doesn't tell you enough. Like, I get it, you're supposed to do all of the main missions, but until I went into spectator mode to look around this thing, I learned that I couldn't even access this entire structure until I defeated the Snow Queen and Lich. Well, great, how am I supposed to do that? Because guess what? I have no clue. It doesn't tell me where they spawn. I've been in all these places and I have not gotten any Twilight Forest bosses. Unfortunately, all of these main missions are locked until near the end of the game, and you're supposed to do all of the crazy world engine upgrades. Yeah, I kind of lost the will to play this pack, like nearing the end here. That sucks because I would like to complete it. It's just like I've already said several times, there's way too much stuff in here. It feels too clunky and I'm not having fun having to do all of these miscellaneous objectives. I have no intention of working with Create or other magic mods. I really wish they would have just kept it a factory pack instead of whatever this abomination trying to do everything in one pack is. It's not working. At least not for me. Another one of my favorite mods is whatever adds the ability to, well, first of all, silk touch spawners, because I have a ton of spawners and that's awesome, but more importantly, add things to it that can make it better. There's like redstone control that I used a bit later on. Most important of all though, the chorus fruit that turns off their AI. That makes Wither Skull farming extremely easy, and yeah, I love it. There's also stuff that can like decrease their health, make them spawn faster. It's a very good mod for sure. Naturally, farming wither skeleton skulls only means one thing: fighting the wither boss itself. As you can probably guess, this fight was ridiculously easy, my armor is stupidly tough, and the Tempest is just one of my favorite weapons I've ever found in this game. On top of that, I got this super cheap glass. Like, this stuff is just glass and coal, yet it's witherproof, which is not balanced in the slightest, by the way, but I love it. I'd rather have cheap and stupid witherproof glass instead of the super expensive stuff. I forgot what other mod I was thinking of. I think it's Mystical Agriculture that has the most expensive one, or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty cool. A little bit later, I actually got a visit from the Quantum Goat. You might have seen him earlier. They spawn every so often, ram you, and then drop something. And Eternal Steak. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like, by the way. It is an infinite food source. It has a tiny cooldown, but I can't really complain considering free food forever. I don't have to worry about it ever again. That's another one of my favorite items in this pack for sure. I've been working on a ton of stuff at this point, and I found this really cool thing. There's actually 2 upgrades to the replication system that I haven't gotten to play with before. Granted, I've only used replication one other time. That was also in Ocean Block 2. But these add-ons look really cool because they make the system way more efficient. Well, speed-wise at least. This purple cover makes the replicators way faster, but also chew up more power, which kinda sucks because power is currently my main issue. The other one is a motor, and I didn't use these because I kind of forgot about them, and the replicators are so stupidly fast as is, you don't truly need them, but I think they increase speed or something like that at the cost of potentially failing, and then they have to restart or retry for that replicator. I'm glad you don't completely lose all the resources because that would be stupid. It's easy enough to craft most of the resources I need for the replicators. The only thing that's annoying is the replicators themselves, because those have to be crafted in the world engine. They also require Oritech cores, but that's not that bad. One of the things I've been working on, in the background I managed to set up steam power. I only had a couple to start, but once I got the replication system, guess what? I can just duplicate the generators. Well, not for free, of course, I gotta pay all the special resources I need, but this system is awesome because now I can power my whole replica network, and yeah, I can make so many resources infinitely easier than before. This system is pretty simple. It just uses a water tank, only 2 boilers. They can actually power this many. The more steam, the more power you produce, which is very nice. So I could add more boilers, but this works for now. And I'm using lava eggs as the power source because, of course, it's the easiest way to go. The resource chickens pair extremely well with replica because, for example, this ender pearl chicken, it gives me the quantum and ender that I actually need to make nether stars. So yeah, I can duplicate nether stars super easily, which means I don't have to fight the wither more times, and I can make my nether star chicken, which is very exciting. Oh yeah, to make that nether star chicken, I actually have to craft tier 8 souls, which requires even more nether stars and tier 7 souls. And of course, I need to make an empowering setup, or empowerer setup, but I think empowering is easier to say. You get the point. I need to make this setup so I can finally get my crystal block when I technically only need 1 single emerald, but you might as well make a block because it is technically cheaper. To get further into progression, I actually have to go into industrial foregoing. I'm not a huge fan of this mod. Sure, it is factory and everything like that, but some of the steps are extremely boring and annoying to do. For example, I need to make latex so that I can make higher tier machine cores. Well, great, I have to get latex now, which takes forever because you gotta extract it from wood. I mean, yeah, I know I could always make more machines and stuff like that, but you get the point. The second resource I need is actually pink slime, which is way more annoying to get, trust me, but I had an idea for this one. You essentially get it by grinding up animals or mobs, I think, whatever, chickens. I've got plenty of chickens and plenty that produce eggs. You see where I'm going with this. It's probably not ethical in the slightest, but it works, and that's what matters. But unfortunately, the last thing I need for this whole chain is, well, I can't remember it. I didn't even write it down. It's some sort of gas that you can only get by shooting a laser drill into a wither. I'm like, seriously? That means I have to set up the stasis chamber, and I cannot be bothered to do any of this. I just want my nether star generators. That's the only reason I'm doing all of this. But it requires a trillion steps, and I've lost all interest in actually trying this process out now. So I decided to do some more exploring, where I happened to find this really cool dungeon. This part was kind of confusing at first, but essentially you gotta run through this thing while you play Pigstep. I know you guys can't hear it that well, both because of my music, and, well, I record in stereo, but Minecraft is really weird with audio for some reason, and even when putting the channel to mono, so you should be able to hear everything, it doesn't work quite right with music because of the distance and everything like that. So really weird stuff here. The music is like either super quiet or you can hear it just fine. It's bizarre. Either way, this whole puzzle thing just requires you to run on the yellow and follow it for the whole duration. Yeah, it's not that interesting, I will admit. It was cool at first, but got very annoying very quick. The reward for completing that whole puzzle is a boss fight. It's Ignis. I've fought this dude once before. Obviously, that was also Ocean Block 2, but in there I had the pneumatic craft minigun. It was insanely overpowered, and yeah, I was able to shred him. My damage isn't that great here, but I was doing fine until this part. This is actually near the end, where I kind of just gave up. He heals, apparently. I don't know why or how, but yeah, all of the damage I dealt him, which took a while by the way, it just was for nothing, because haha, funny boss healing. I really cannot stand this mod pack any longer, I have to admit. So if boss is gonna cheat and get stupid health regeneration, then I'm going to cheat and get stupid weapon. I found this, the meat shredder. I mean, the name alone should tell you exactly what it is and why I want it, and it also ignores invincibility frames, which is awesome. But in case you're curious, yeah, this is a Psycho Buzz Axe from Borderlands. And we all know I'm a huge Borderlands fan, so naturally I love this thing. And yeah, it's quite powerful. I think I'll keep it. It allows me to shred or one-shot just about anything, which is very nice. And considering I'm pretty much done with this pack at this point anyways, might as well have some more fun. For a while now, I've been meaning to go back to the Deep Slate area and kill a warden, and with my new weapon, well, yeah, the warden doesn't stand much of a chance. I love this thing. I'm sure I could easily dot him to death with my Tempest, but this is more fun, honestly. He still does pack a punch though. I really didn't expect that, especially considering I'm only in easy mode. One of my generator options that I was really hoping for is the furnaces, but to make their generator upgrades, it's something that is stupidly annoying to make. It requires create. It's a shame I didn't go that route because look at these things. The netherite furnaces look absolutely sick. Like, these are one of my favorite blocks ever. I mean, yeah, the Soulfire absolutely carries them, but netherite looks cool in general. I've been exploring for a while, looking for one specific thing. I'll get to that soon enough. When I happened to find the Leviathan arena, that's pretty cool. And that's why I think so much of this pack is a big shame, because it's such a cool pack. There's just way too much. It's trying to be something it's not. I really wish I did enjoy this pack, because it does look fun if you enjoy this kind of stuff. Oh, and I guess I never really showed that one clip. I forgot exactly what dropped it even. It was some like crazy insane rare drop from a mission, I think. I got this specialized chest plate. I think it's a red matter chest plate. So it's super hard to craft, but the modifiers on it are insane. It gives creative flight. Essentially, it makes me invincible. That's what I'm trying to say. This pack is not balanced in the slightest. You guys remember earlier when I encountered that structure in the end that completely blocked my path? Well, yes, that is the final boss arena. It took me several hours of looking through the missions and all the code behind it to finally figure out, oh, it's not outside of the world in like Ring 7 or something like that. No, it's actually the end one. It's a bit ridiculous, but yeah. This is the final boss arena. Obviously, I'm nowhere near the final boss. There's like a trillion main missions I have to do, but of course you need all the magic stuff, create. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm sick of this mod pack already. I just want to finish it. I'm sorry if it disappoints you, but if I'm not having fun with a mod pack, I know the video isn't going to be good and it's not going to do well. Very similar to one of the last videos I made. Well, actually the last pack I just ran, Forever Stranded. Yeah, same situation there. I was not having fun in the slightest with it, which really sucks. I think it's a cool pack, but it had all sorts of problems of its own. For now though, of course, I just want to fight the final boss, see what it is, because the one thing I know is that it's a freaking chicken jockey. Ugh, it's so ridiculous. And yes, that is part of the reason I wanted to fight it, because of how stupid it is. I decided before I finish up the episode for good, there is still a lot of mods and stuff I liked about this pack. It's just like overshadowed by all the stuff I hated about it. That's the problem. I love Oritech, one of my new favorite mods. Mechanism is very fun. The resource chickens were super cool. Overall, I think the factory aspect has a ton of potential. If you just get rid of create and don't make us do all this magic and exploring, I think it would literally be perfect. On top of that, the events definitely need some sort of rework, because I always just got the loot bee. I have no clue what the questing ram did. The quantum goat was very nice, and the jump scares were mid. I got used to the creeper one after a while, but my favorite, and like the only jump scare besides the creepers I heard, and his name is John Cena, like that actual audio clip. It was pretty hilarious, and it got me because I was not expecting that in 2026. So that was a good reference, and those were definitely my favorite parts about the pack. Again, I just wish they hadn't focused on exploration in a freaking factory mod pack. Like I said, the chest plate I have literally makes me immortal. You require a chicken stick to actually break his shield, and the meat shredder, well, it's in the name. It's absolutely shredding this thing. I love this weapon. The boss fight also has a really cool theme to it, and I'm guessing it's difficult if you're not on easy mode, but overall, nothing too insane, I guess. It's not like you can make a super crazy Minecraft boss because of how janky Minecraft just is in general. You know, this isn't something perfect like Terraria, or, you know, a dedicated 2D or even 3D boss game, really. So boss fights are never going to be like crazy, cool, or unique. But I'm at least glad it's all finished and I'm finally done. Especially being able to see what the final boss actually was. Alright, one true last note for this video. A big part of why I didn't enjoy this pack, and especially like Forever Stranded, is honestly kind of your guys' fault for recommending me to play Greg Tech, because I've been playing so much Greg Tech New Horizons recently. It's just become my favorite mod pack ever, easily, and that's the issue. Greg Tech New Horizons, it's been out for 10 years at this point, which is insane, but it's just so well polished. It's like, I can't even describe, just, it's such a good mod pack. It is literally the best thing ever. Even though it takes, you know, over, what, 2,000 hours, likely many more, who knows? The 400 plus hours I have in it at this point have all felt extremely fun. Despite how long it's been, it hasn't felt like boring or, okay, it's complicated for sure, but not like a bad complicated where I don't want to do it. It's still like very doable and interesting to do everything along the way. In contrast, there's this pack, which is kind of the opposite. I know I've already said everything about all of the mods I don't like. That makes complete sense. But yeah, playing Greg Tech has kind of ruined most other mod packs for me because there's nothing else like it. Greg Tech has been polished for 10 years, and it is literally the shiniest mod pack in the world. Nothing else is even close. But who knows, maybe my opinions will change. I just need to find like the right mod pack to play for me. But of course, I have no clue when that's gonna be. But yeah, as you can probably guess, I was not able to beat Stoneblock 4. I definitely want to go back and play 2 and 3 at some point, and that's looking very likely considering how this one turned out. I want to play Stoneblock, but this is not it, I have to say. Either way though, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate it. And of course, a special thank you to all of my channel members and supporters. And this is going to be Enzo from Lookintogaming, signing out.